You said you think that feminism can help men's rights. Like, open up on that. Well, how do you give us an example of what you mean in terms of,
I guess, like,
theory,
without using with using a buzzword or term that people talk about. I guess it centers around toxic masculinity and the concept. If you look at the kind of men's spaces and red pill spaces and podcasts that are very popular at the moment, talking about helping men, they're not really doing anything that's addressing toxic masculinity. They're saying it doesn't exist. They're saying men are not toxic and kind of being in denial of that, where feminism does address toxic masculinity in a sense. And when I say toxic masculinity,
let's define that.
I mean, it's very difficult to define just in a sentence or whatever. But like, people may straight away think about how men treat women. But if we're talking about male suicide rates and male depression and mental health and all, like, these are all conversations that those red pill podcasts talk about, right? Those are all results of toxic masculinity. Those are all, if you speak to feminists about what they think toxic masculinity means, that's what they're going to tell you. They're going to say, well, men are suffering in this way. Is that
what they say?
100%.
Because what I hear with toxic masculinity is associated with more traditional, men acting in what quote unquote traditional masculine way, but it's seen as patriarchal to the woman. So a man saying that a man has specific gender roles and a woman has specific gender roles would be deemed as toxic masculinity because...
No, not necessarily, but there are what people may call traditional forms of gender roles that people could say are toxic, and that can come into the conversation, but it's not like, oh, you're traditional, so you're toxic. Like, feminism is about equality and also, like, equal rights and opportunity and choices. So if someone chooses to live a traditional lifestyle, you can be a feminist. That's fine. Like, it's not really...
Should be, but I feel like when we're having a conversation, it slightly changes. I feel like women are demonized for wanting to be traditional as well by feminists.
Maybe. I don't think they really would be in situations where there's nothing toxic going on in that kind of situation.
Can you honestly say that though? Because I perfectly see what you're saying, but and obviously social media is not the real world. But the first thing, if you want to say, I want to be a traditional housewife, you're. What
does that even mean? What does that mean though? And when has that existed in our lifetime, or even like when was the last time that even existed?
Probably like you mean as
in the last century, in the 90s, 1900s,
in terms of general populace.
Okay.
In terms of general populace, before women went into the workplace, essentially.
Yeah, but
pre-industrial revolution.
Yeah.
When women went into workplace, obviously, then there'll be, it wasn't sustainable to have, because then you'd have inflation, and then it wouldn't have been viable.
Yeah, so that's part of it. But even before then, it's I don't even think at that time it was the picture that people are trying to paint. And a lot of these guys that are pushing for that kind of traditional lifestyle or talking about on the internet, like you say, the internet is not necessarily the real world. Half of these podcasters are nowhere near living that kind of life, or even ready to, or in a financial position to. And what they end up doing is creating all of this content that tells them vulnerable men that are going through this kind of mental health problems. This all went wrong when women started working and when them roles changed, right? So they essentially are making women the thing that's to blame. When women are not to blame. Women went into the workplace because of capitalism. So capitalism is actually the root of the problem in pretty much all of this.
See, I think when we're defining toxic masculinity, I think that is more, to me, a better fitting version of toxic masculinity than all the other things suggested. That this idea that you're to blame for the shift in my necessity in the home, because I think that's the element that can lead to the mental health issues where I'm confused about my identity because I was told that to be a man I have to do X, Y, and Z.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And now that I can't even get a woman to begin with, so now my hate and anger goes towards you. I think that's toxic masculinity.
They can get a woman. Let's just be clear about that, though. They can. All of them. I
think history tells a different story.
There's women out there available for everybody.
There is, but accessibility is a different story. So like, even like, again, with Sapiens, the book says that the majority of society is born of 80 to 90% of women and only around 40% of men.
What do you mean?
So that's in like only 40% of men were able to successfully reproduce with 80% of the women. So because they're the ones that were granted the ability to reproduce. Like they were attractive.
What do you mean
enough.
ability? Like the way you're describing it, I'm thinking like physically.
It all aspects. So in terms of what is attractive to a woman, you have to tick certain biological boxes.
Bro, there's a woman out there for everybody. I'll be honest with you.
That's easy to say, but in practice, it doesn't work out that way.
In practice, I know man them in the ends who literally, you know what I'm saying, got nothing going for them. They all got women. You know what I'm saying? The only man I know who ain't
because
got
they're
women.
ticking certain boxes.
No, they're just doing it for themselves. The only box you got to tick.
Bums get gal.
Yeah, of course.
Why? Because they got time to divert themselves to getting gal.
Cool. But the only box you got to tick is to try. That's the only box you got to try.
Yeah.
Like literally. So this man.
But a lot of men don't have these skills, you know.
Yeah, so cool.
So that's what I'm saying.
Not having the skills is one thing.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. And this whole kind of incel culture, that's what creates this kind of incel culture or whatever.
Yeah.
Those men can't get girls, but once they get out of that, if they worked on getting out of that, they can.
That I understand. You can teach these men how to, but there's men that just don't, and that's what I mean by can't.
And the man teaching them how to are not really the best men to teach.
I agree with that.
This is the problem with him.